Hello and welcome to our build guide for the new and severely underrated ascendancy, the Tactician. The Siege Cascade is a very comfortable and powerful crossbow skill. It fires a projectile into the air that drops explosive bolts at all nearby enemies. It is very good for clearing out hordes of enemies, but its damage against single powerful enemies is also very strong thanks to the payoff mechanic. This skill deals 280% more damage to immobilized enemies. By default, the Siege Cascade converts all physical damage into fire damage, which makes pinning or freezing enemies impossible, usually forcing you to swap between skills. The solution here is the Tactician Ascendancy. Its most important feature is pinning enemies with any type of projectile damage, which makes Siege Cascade a self-sufficient skill. Since you are not limited to a specific damage type, you can use the Painter's Servant Gloves to apply shock, chill, and automatically balance the Trinity buff. The Tactician also offers 50% less reservation cost for all persistent buffs, allowing you to deeply customize them to your preference, mostly limited only by the maximum skill slots. You can fit in many powerful offensive and defensive buffs, as well as various trigger setups for more utility. Most of your damage comes from the Siege Cascade. The Artillery Ballista and Glacial Bolt help build up the pin, apply exposure, and generate rage. You can also use a Shard Scavenger and Emergency Reload for a short but powerful burst. Additional stun and ailment thresholds sourced from your armor and evasion makes the mapping experience much more comfortable, but you still have to dodge manually dangerous boss abilities. On top of that, you will have a decent amount of maximum life with a little bit of energy shield, and your pin stops enemies from performing any actions. The Siege Cascade covers a large area and doesn't require aiming. The damage boost against pinned enemies is not necessary for non-boss enemies. The damage against bosses is very good, but it requires pin build-up to be most effective. The build is very cheap to get started. Obviously, more expensive items with better rolls or the deepest tower helmet will make the build stronger, but it is not mandatory at the start. The build has no mandatory unique items for the functionality. You can start with just the rare items. However, your first acquisition should be the Painted Servant Gloves, which are very cheap and powerful, but require extra effort to negate enemy resistance. The Morior Invictus and the Deepest Tower are simply very efficient options relative to their cost. The Painted Servant Gloves naturally balance out the Trinity buff, grant you up to 30% extra elemental damage, and allow you to inflict chill and shock. Be mindful of corruption outcomes that disrupt the balance of elemental conversion. The Deepest Tower Helmet simply allows you to use very efficient modifiers on your passive tree to boost your damage. Your presence area is rather small, so you will have to get close to your enemies for it to take effect. The Morior Invictus is a very good and universal body armor, especially for this build. It has 3 random socket modifiers: aim for global defense, and life paired with resistances, attributes, or spirit, depending on your remaining gear pieces. You can use the Ryslather's Coil Belt as minimum and maximum values, affect your damage even through conversions. But if you decide to do so, you should only stack physical damage on your gear. It is especially valuable with the lucky damage notable enabled by the helmet. Firstly, you will need to cap your elemental and chaos resistance, as well as get enough attributes for your gems and items. You also need extra spirit. It has double value for tacticians. It is a non-critical strike build, so you only need flat damage and gem levels wherever it's applicable. Defensively, you need all the maximum life you can find, and a mix of energy shield, armor, and evasion rating. The additional bolt is a mandatory modifier on your weapon, either as an implicit or regular suffix on a rare crossbow. Other than that, try to get as much damage and gem levels as possible. Scaling your damage via gem levels is usually more cost effective, but it also makes mana sustain problematic, so the best option simply depends on the market prices. The Ballista requires a second, similar weapon, but it is less impactful, so a cheap one will be sufficient. The rings can improve your damage via flat damage for attacks, or mana regeneration if it allows you to comfortably use high-level gems. The type of added damage does not matter, as long as the average amount is higher than other options. If you use Ryslather's Coil, you will need only physical damage, but getting enough resistance alongside it would be very expensive. A rare amulet can further improve your projectile gem levels. It should also grant you spirit, maximum life, and resistance or attributes. Optionally, it can boost your energy shield, but you shouldn't spend too much currency on that. At first you can use a simple rare armor that provides an energy shield and evasion, maximum life, and resistance. Make sure to use hybrid bases, otherwise you would need to get much more attributes than necessary. Similarly, at first, simple rare helmet with high maximum life, resistances, or attributes can be good too. There are no useful offensive modifiers here, so you should replace it with the unique helmet sooner than later. On your boots, you will need a high bonus to movement speed, maximum life, and lacking resistance or attributes. The bases with armor are usually much cheaper than their energy shield or evasion counterparts with the same rare modifiers, as most non-tactician builds do not benefit from armor that much. A simple rare belt with tons of maximum life, resistance, and strength is a quite good option here. You will need a lot of them after all. Extra charms can be useful too, but it is not very important. On your jewels, you will need faster pin build-up, attack speed, and any kind of increased damage. Life and mana recovery on kill is also very useful to have, best paired with presence area or any beneficial modifier for your energy shield. Your main ability is Siege Cascade. It fires a projectile into the air that automatically aims at all nearby enemies to fire an explosive bolt. By default, it has only one use per reload. It deals significantly more damage against immobilized foes. The magnified effect and acceleration make clearing much smoother, but they do not help with single target damage. When fighting pinnacle bosses, you should swap them to execute and concentrated effect. The artillery ballista automatically fires projectiles at nearby enemies. It helps with building up pin and deals a decent amount of damage with minimal effort. You should make use of the weapon sets to pick up totem notables for this skill only. The Font of Rage slowly generates rage for you, but it will quickly dissipate if you move too far away from the ballista. You should place them close to the bosses since lockdown support scales out of distance. Glacial Bolt creates ice walls upon landing, which are usually instantly detonated by boss, causing them to explode and deal area damage. It can also be used to stop very fast enemies. The destroyed walls hit multiple times, making it quite easy to apply all three elemental exposures, as each has a slightly different requirement. You may need to use the ignition support to enable the fire exposure instead of boosting their effect. Killing a shocked enemy with the Herald of Thunder active empowers your next 5 attacks, causing them to trigger a lightning bolt. It improves your clear speed and can grant you short-term buffs for damage. The Ice Bite and Innovate greatly boost your damage, but it won't be active for fighting bosses, so it is not a high priority. Use the Deadly Herald support only if you have enough spare spirit, otherwise use Conduction support. Wind Dancer generates charges that improve your evasion rating over time. Upon taking a hit, you lose all charges and counterattack with melee hit. The damage of this skill is not particularly strong, but it is good enough to leech life back to you right after taking the hit. You can also use Blind and Maim to weaken your enemies. Blasphemy is a persistent buff that automatically applies Linked Curse to all nearby enemies at lowered efficiency. It also costs a lot of spirit. The elemental resistance curses are not very effective in this setup. It is better to use the temporal chains to slow down enemies and make the pin last longer on them. Ghost Dance stores up to 5 Ghost Shrouds over time. Upon taking damage from a hit, you consume the shroud to recover energy shield based on your evasion rating. The lowered duration on this skill causes it to generate Ghost Shrouds faster. You can also link various utility spirit support gems such as Cannibalism or Precision here. Trinity causes you to gain resonance when you deal elemental damage. Dealing mixed damage types quickly stacks it up and grants a massive bonus for all your elements. Every 3 gem levels, the Trinity grants more elemental damage. Ideally, you should get over 200 dexterity to use the maximum gem level, but it will be hard to achieve on a lower budget. Emergency Reload instantly reloads your ammunition and empowers it with a massive damage boost. Use it only if the enemy is pinned. For maximum efficiency, you will need to combine it with a Shard Scavenger buff, but it is a decent option on its own. With the Premeditation support, you will deal a total of 45% more damage during the buff effect. It is a lot, but this skill has a very long cooldown. Shard Scavenger is an optional persistent skill. Upon consuming an ailment, it instantly reloads your bolts and grants you a short buff that gives infinite ammunition for the duration. Those bolts will be affected by emergency reload empowerment. It is a very strong ability, but even with bonuses to the duration, it barely lasts 3 seconds. Higher gem levels lower the cooldown between possible activations. Shard Scavenger does not work on its own. You need to consume an ailment with another skill to activate it. The easiest way is with the cast on Ignite setup that triggers Firestorm. To use this skill, you will need a lot more spirit in your gear or remove some of the defensive buffs. The Firestorm automatically consumes Ignite on your enemies, and the Flame Wall keeps enemies on fire. The damage of those spells does not matter. Use low-level gems to reduce mana costs. The charms are not as mandatory here due to the Tactician ascendancy and its resistance to ailments or stuns, but they are still more life-saving than a bit extra recovery from your flasks. The increased stun threshold offered as the reward in the Venom Crypts quest is very effective for all the flat stun thresholds you gain from your armor. In the cruel variant of this quest, it is best to get chaos resistance. The reduced slow potency is also quite good, but too niche. Unfortunately, Siege Cascade is one of the last unlockable skills for crossbows. You will have to use other skills to complete the campaign. We recommend a lightning approach with galvanic shards and shock round burst. You can switch to Siege Cascade immediately after unlocking the skill gem for it and completing the first Ascendancy trial. The final passive tree is quite simple. Scaling critical strikes requires too much investment to be worth it, although it could be done at a very high budget. Instead, you should focus on increasing your damage, improving attack speed, and getting elemental penetration. Your attack speed also affects the reload speed. At first, it might be quite annoying, but it will be barely noticeable in the endgame. Area of effect is also very important. It massively improves your clear speed and allows for better explosion overlapping. While the Tactician is the best ascendancy for this build, you can still play it with a different class. You could use physical skills to apply pin or convert the fire damage to cold only and freeze enemies instead of pinning them. However, the Tactician approach is still easier and more effective, especially at a lower budget. We hope this video gave you a good understanding of this setup or inspired some ideas to incorporate in your build. If you want to see more of our guides, consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching and have a great day.